with that, let's now shift our attention to the big story of the day, and that is the Congress protests happening across the entire country. Protests, clashes, dharnas, blockades, detention. That's all you will be seeing on your screens today as we show you what was transpiring at those protest sites as Congress took to the streets in full force, setting fire to two-wheelers, also vandalizing state-run buses. The Congress party protests happened across the entire country against the ED grilling of Rahul Gandhi. Now, the protests that began with a march on day one of the probe has now turned into anarchy. Dramatic visuals are coming in from everywhere across the country as Congress workers are burning effigies, vehicles, clashing with the cops, and it's the public who's bearing the brunt of these actions. On your screen, you can see how an ambulance got stuck in Bengaluru amid the road blockade by Congress workers. Meanwhile, in Hyderabad, the Congress leader Renuka Chaudhary manhandled a policeman on duty.
Ma'am, those visuals on our screens, you can be seen manhandling officials, police cops on the ground. Could you talk to us about what really happened?
You know, I was late. I didn't even go when the real action was happening because I was held up in a traffic jam. By the time I walked in, the show was over. They had arrested all the primary leaders of Congress and taken them away. So the media was questioning me and I was talking to them. When the police came and requested that, they said, "Madam, you please go back." So I said, "Okay, call my car." So my vehicle was coming towards me when suddenly I was accompanied by 5 ladies. When suddenly the police got aggressive and they started pushing, shoving, pinching, physically lifting these women and trying to throw them into police vans. And I said, "Why are you provoking the situation?"
No, but ma'am, what explains you physically holding a police official on the ground? You can see those visuals which we're putting out as we continue to talk to you. What justifies that? If there was some sort of altercation, you could have spoken to the police officials.
If you please look at all the videos, don't look selectively, look at the entire video length. They were pushing us from behind. I was falling. I tried to reach for the man's shoulder for balance. And unfortunately, I couldn't get his shoulder.
Unfortunately, those visuals don't look like that. And the larger issue that I'm trying to understand is, why is the routine questioning of Rahul Gandhi by the Enforcement Directorate turned into this optics on the ground for the Congress party? Where officials... One second, ma'am. I want to understand something. No, 1 second. I'm anchoring the show, so let me just ask that question to you first. Common people today are bearing the brunt. Ambulances are stuck in various parts. You have police officials being hurt as well, and those visuals on the screens where you're manhandling an official on the ground as well. The Congress essentially was saying that this was a satyagraha.
I will caution you to talk appropriately. What do you mean I was manhandling the police? You can't see the whole lot of police shoving and pushing and pinching us from behind? You didn't see me questioning the police saying, "Why are you arresting us? What is it that I've done and the what section are you arresting me?" I'm asking, you haven't seen those visuals? These are convenient visuals.
I have seen all the visuals and we've put out visuals from across the country. I'm trying to understand what justifies the kind of anarchy that we're seeing across India today just because the Gandhis are being questioned?
Oh my God, you haven't seen the anarchy across the country that you're questioning me. You haven't seen the anarchy where Muslims are being terrorized. You haven't seen where women have been raped, minors are raped in the state every day in Telangana. You haven't seen that. None of that is visible.
I'm just trying to understand one thing, ma'am. This was a routine, regular questioning by the Enforcement Directorate.
I reached for the man's shoulder.
Party members from your own party were also questioned in the past.
Don't ask me questions if you don't even want to listen to my side of the story.
Go ahead.
Why are you putting me on TV?
Go ahead.
You should learn to listen. You please call for all the visuals and you will clearly see that we had turned back and we were going to get into my car. My vehicle was approaching. Suddenly the police took it into their thing that they have to hustle us. And they started arresting the women, pushing them, pinching them, scratching them, shoving them into the car where her head got injured. And I was being pushed from behind. I would have fallen on that police.
All right, for the latest update, let's quickly go across to our correspondent Swastika Das, who's joining me on the phone line. Swastika, what is the situation as of now? Has the protest now calmed down? A. B. I'd like you to inform our viewers how the Congress protest in Hyderabad was the most violent.
Well, protests have ended, and they ended a couple of hours ago. But yes, what was supposed to be a peaceful satyagraha being called by the Congress, a simple walk to the Raj Bhavan, escalated into violence when a group of Congress workers went on a rampage. They got on top of an RTC bus, not one but two, pelted stones at it, while passengers were sitting inside the bus, torched a two-wheeler, and also right now we are getting visuals of a senior Congress leader, former MP Renuka Chaudhary there, heckling a police officer who was on duty. Now, several of these Congress leaders have been detained, including TPCC President Revanth Reddy. Renuka Chaudhary was also detained, and coupled with other Congress MLAs. But you know, what is surprising is the law and order situation on the ground. Even when I spoke to the police officers who did not wish to come in front of the camera, they said that Congress was clearly denied permission to walk till the Raj Bhavan because that is an arterial road. That is also an area which connects different parts of the city, and that's the reason why there was no permission given. Yet we saw Congress workers, take the situation out of control. They stormed barricades and created all the chaos that we saw unfold on the streets of Hyderabad today.
Right. Swastika, you mentioned that senior leaders were detained. Also, of course, very disturbing visuals of Renuka Chaudhary actually manhandling that policeman. Has there been any action taken against her as yet?
Well, so far none. And also, Renuka Chaudhary, to top it all, has spoken exclusively to CNN News 18, where she says that she was in turn being pushed by a group of police officers, where she did not apologize for what she did. And also, some of the other senior Congress leaders I spoke to earlier today have blamed outsiders, those who are being backed by the BJP, for instigating the violence that took place in Hyderabad. So rather than owing up to what they have done, it was a complete failure on part of the Congress, in the sense that there was no police permission, and what they said was effectively going to be a peaceful protest, spiraled out of control. They vandalized public property, put general public at large inconvenience, for which the Congress party, when questioned, has no concrete answers as such.
Right, Swastika, thank you for bringing in those updates. It's time to now quickly get in a sense of perspective in terms of what's actually happening with these Congress protests across the entire nation. For that, I'm joined in by our panelist Aashutoshsrivastava, who's a lawyer at the Supreme Court. Ashutosh, if I may begin with those visuals that we are running on our television screens right now, some deeply dramatic visuals. I'd like to ask you, will you not call that manhandling? Because that is something that the senior Congress leader Renuka Chaudhary has denied. Had it been any other common man doing the same thing, don't you think that person would have been bashed up and put behind bars?
For any sort of protest, the Supreme Court in its recent judgments have clarified that in what way the protests should be done in the country. Obviously, protest is the right of a citizen as far as Article 19, 1A of the Constitution is concerned, which gives the freedom of speech and expression. But at the same time, there are certain restrictions also.
Right. Does that justify manhandling that policeman? If you've seen those visuals, does this action not merit for heckling, for manhandling?
Yes, it is not at all allowed. This is completely illegal if it is proved in due course of time. Obviously, if anybody is doing manhandling, whoever, whether the party worker or any opposition or maybe the police authority, whoever is doing it, is completely illegal. It is not at all allowed in law. And accordingly, FIR can also be registered. If it is against the public servant, the person who is stopping or creating any issues against any public servant in discharging his duties can also be prosecuted under section 353 of Indian Penal Code, and accordingly FIR can be registered in that case as well. Protest is the right, but there are certain rules and regulations which have been prescribed by the Supreme Court from time to time, and there cannot be blockage of public roads also indefinitely while doing such kind of protests. So everything has been clarified. Also recently, when these farmers' issues went to the Supreme Court and the roads were blocked for a indefinite time. So the Supreme Court came up with certain rules and regulations. Of course, it allowed the protests, the peaceful protests, but not at all any sort of violence or any sort of issues which may create hurdles and problems and issues for the other public at large. So the safety of the people and the convenience of the people has to be taken
Right.
on priority while doing such kind of protests by any political party or any person or any citizen of this country. So
Right.
that is very, very clarified, and that has to be followed by everyone. Now, in this case, if anyone is not satisfied, not happy with the kind of investigation what is going on, they have clear right to go to the appropriate court and challenge such kind of the proceedings which are according to them not proper or up to the mark. Then the court should come up and decide whether the authorities, whatever the summons have been issued, whether the investigation is going on in right direction or not.
Fair
So
enough.
that question can be answered by the courts, I think, rather than going and staging such a public outrage.
No, and why
But yes,
shouldn't
the
the
rights
matter?
are there.
Absolutely, Aashutoshsrivastava. I'd actually like you to answer this question. Why shouldn't the matter now be reaching the courts, considering what kind of a satyagraha is it? If we look at vandalism, that has happened, arson has
Absolutely.
happened. The roads were blocked. Ambulances could not find their way to the hospital, causing inconvenience to the common man, doing dharnabazi. What kind of satyagraha is that?
Yes, absolutely. Everything has to be kept in mind while doing such kind of activities. Obviously, mainly the orders being passed by Supreme Court and other courts from time to time, that needs to be followed by the people at large while doing such kind of activity. And the safety measures of the people, old, children, everything has to be considered while staging such kind of protest. Protest is not illegal, but the procedure to follow it and to do it has to be completely followed by the people doing such kind of protest. And as far as ED is concerned, obviously ED has certain rights as per Section 50 of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act to summon, to question, to seize. And if that ED is not functioning properly and not following the procedures prescribed by the law,
Right.
every one who is not happy or satisfied with that process can obviously approach the court.
Right.
The courts are there to look after all these kind of issues.
We'll delve
And if
into
it
the
is to
ED angle
go
as
through,
well. Right, Aashutoshsrivastava. Let me also quickly go across to my second guest, Mr. Syed Asad Abbas, who's a political analyst and also joining me on the newscast. Syed, thank you for waiting patiently for your turn. If I may pose my next question to you, what you're seeing on the roads in Hyderabad, particularly what Renuka Chaudhary has done, how do you view that? Do you call it satyagraha, or is this just anarchy and plain manhandling of a public servant?
Well, I totally believe that there is a way to protest. Our Constitution of India allows us to protest, but that does not mean you indulge in any sort of arson or riot or any form of public grievance. We need to understand that with great power comes great responsibility. Be it a Congress party or any political party, they need to understand there is a way of bringing about truth, fair justice within the recourse of the law and order system. If you are going to take the law and order in your own hands, then what political legitimacy do you set for yourself and your political party? So therefore, I think the political leaders, the so-called leaders, need to understand that they cannot misbehave in public, neither they can take the law and order for ransom, and they need to understand where to draw the line. I think the lines get very blurry when the power gets to your head. So therefore, the fact of the matter here is that political parties like a Congress party, BJP, or any party, as a matter of fact, need to know how to agitate, organize, and protest. That is the way to go. But if you indulge yourself into something which is absolutely uncalled for, that is certainly not the way to go.
Also, Mr. Abbas, how do you see the entire pan-India protests now panning out for actually the Congress party? They certainly seem to pick at Rahul Gandhi's questioning by the ED as a crucial part of how to galvanize the entire country at a time when they've been performing dismally. How do you see this now panning out for the Congress party, especially at a time when we are looking at the next general election in 2024?
I truly believe, once our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji said that the opposition is the backbone of democracy. In the better functioning for democracy, there needs to be a strong opposition. But day by day, what do we see? The Congress is being decimated. They are imploding within themselves. People are leaving their party. If they want to be seen as a serious opposition challenger to the Narendra Modi government or the NDA, the Congress party needs to understand that this is not the time to fight amongst themselves or go out protesting in an uncalled manner. They need to understand that they need to galvanize the forces and come together along with their United Progressive Alliances. That is the only way to go. With respect to coming the Enforcement Directorate, questioning Rahul Gandhi, I believe is just like any other human being. He might be an elected representative from the Wayanad, but law is the same for all. But I also believe that as a layman, if I speak, that the CBI, ED, IT today, like the Supreme Court's observation, is being used like a caged parrot. Why don't we see CBI, IT behind Himanta Biswa Sarma or Mukul Roy, who were found in the Sharda chit fund scam? But there's no CBI, IT for BJP leaders. Are they immune to it? Is there some kind of special vaccine for them? I believe CBI, IT needs to be fair for all the politicians. Only because Hardik Patel joins the BJP, all the cases against him are withdrawn.
All right,
What kind of a misuse of political and abuse power is this?
I need to come to a closure, and before I do that, Aashutoshsrivastava, would you agree with Syed Abbas about ED now being used by the government?
See, as I clearly stated, ED has got certain powers as per the law to do the investigation. And now the ED is doing the investigation. Now, if somebody feels that ED is not functioning properly, they have every right to approach the court and get the proper orders from the court accordingly. Now, if we say that the ED is not taking action against this case, that case, or whatever it is, why not these matters are brought to the court for justice? If the opposition feels that these are the cases which should have been handled by the ED more efficiently, there are courts, there are high courts, there is Supreme Court. You can bring any criminal writ petition. You can make ED or anybody as the party to that suit, and you can give directions. The court has the powers to give directions.
All right, I'm running short of time. I'm running short of time. I'll have to call this a close now. I'm really sorry. Okay, 5 seconds you have, Syed Asad.
A very quick counter to the gentleman on the panel. Sir, it was the, you mentioned of the court, go to the court if they find. Sir, it was a Supreme Court itself which said that, which made an observation, a serious observation that today the CBI DIT has become a caged parrot. So that is the truth. So therefore, the powers in center BJP must not misuse it. They must not misuse their powers, sir. Be it a Congress party or a BJP party. No party is allowed to make this of your dirty tricks department. So therefore, it needs to be fair and square. So
these statements were before also. These statements were before also. But the
moral standard.
All right, gentlemen, I'll have to leave this discussion at that because I'm running short of time. Many thanks, Aashutoshsrivastava and Syed Asad Abbas, for joining us on this discussion. And with that, let's now also play out those ground reports we've been getting from across India.